All right, for 1.6, we're going to talk about the triangle inequality theorem, which, if you remember, the last section we did, 1.4, was called inequalities in a triangle. And that can be a little bit confusing because it's kind of two different types of inequalities. But what we're talking about today, when we talk about the triangle inequality theorem, what we're actually talking about is if I give you 3 line segments, whether you are even able to make a triangle out of them. So here's what the triangle inequality theorem says. It says if you add up any 2 sides of a triangle, it has to be longer than the third side. And here's a picture that kind of shows why. Here's an example of one that doesn't fit the triangle inequality. So if you notice, the bottom of this triangle is 10, and the other 2 sides are 5 and 4. So you go, okay, well 5 plus 4 is 9. That's not bigger than 10. It's supposed to be bigger than 10. And that's why in the picture it doesn't make a triangle. So those blue arcs that are drawn in, it's saying, imagine that the 4 and the 5 are on a hinge, and you're going to kind of swing them and try to make them meet and form a triangle. Well, the problem is no matter where you swing them, they're not long enough to reach because it doesn't equal 10. If it equaled exactly 10, like if they were 5 and 5 or 6 and 4, then what would happen? It still wouldn't make a triangle, because what would happen is they would swing forward and they would meet right on that line, and then you wouldn't have a triangle. You'd have a line segment of length 10. So they have to be bigger than 10, even if it's a tiny, tiny bit. If it's 10.01, it makes a triangle. It would be a very flat triangle, it would barely be a triangle, but it would work. So as long as every 2 sides of a triangle add up to be bigger than the third one, not as big. You know, like I said a second ago, if this was a 4 and a 6, you go 4 plus 6 is 10, it makes a triangle. It doesn't make a triangle. It actually makes a line segment. But if it was 4 and 6.0001, it makes a triangle. So here's fundamentally how we're going to use this theorem. If you're trying to decide if 2 or 3 line segments can form a triangle, just pick the smallest 2, add them up, see if it's bigger than the third one, the biggest. You don't have to, you only have to check that one. You know, technically the theorem says every 2 sides have to add up to the third one, bigger than the third one. But if one of them is not going to work, it's the 2 smallest ones. So that's the only one you need to check. So let's do this for a quick example. We'll say, do these 3 sides make a triangle? I have a 4.5 inches, 11 inches, and 6 inches. So I look at them, and the first thing I say is, all right, well, the 11 is the biggest one. The small ones are the 4.5 and the 6. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, are the 4.5 and the 6 going to reach? If I haven't, you don't really need a picture for this, but just to show you what I'm thinking, if I do the 11 across the bottom here, and I have the 6 over here, and the 4.5 over here, then are they long enough to reach? And to be long enough to reach, they have to add up to bigger than 11, and they actually don't. 6 plus 4.5 is 10.5. So they're not long enough to reach. Even if you laid them down flat, there would still be a ½ inch between them. They're not going to reach and form a triangle. So the answer to the question is no. If I had 3, imagine you have like sticks. You have 3 sticks. One of them is 6 inches, one of them is 11 inches, one of them is 4.5 inches, and you try to rearrange them to make a triangle out of those 3 sides, you can't do it. The 2 shortest ones aren't long enough. So let's talk about range, because a different way I can ask you kind of the same question, instead of just giving you all 3 sides and saying, do they make a triangle? I can give you 2 of the sides, and I can say, well, tell me what the third one could be. And that's what range means. Range is the highest and lowest that a number can be. So range is when you say it could be anything between 4 inches and 12 inches. Or it can be anything between 7 miles and 100 miles. You know, it's between 2 numbers. That's what we mean when we say range. So let me give you a similar example to the one we just did. So 2 sides of a triangle are 6 and 9. what is the range for the third side? So let's think about this. The one thing I know is my two sides are 6 and 9, and the 9 is bigger than 6. So there's two possible things that can happen here. We can have the 9 as the biggest side, the 6 as one of the shorter sides, and then a question mark as the other shorter side. Now, if that's the case, that question mark needs to be bigger than 3. If it equals 3, you get that 9, that 6 plus 3 equals 9. It doesn't make a triangle, it's laying on it. So the question mark has to be bigger than 3. I know that. And I actually got that just by subtracting. I got that just by doing 9 minus 6. Okay, now, the other possibility would be, what if the 9 isn't the biggest side? What if the 6 and the 9 are the short sides, and you have a third side that's bigger than both of them? So for my other picture, let's say the big side is the one we don't know, and I have a 6 here, and I have a 9 here, and I want to make sure it makes a triangle. So what I'm thinking is the biggest that can be is 15, because 9 plus 6 equals 15. In fact, it can't be 15. If it equaled 15, you have that same situation where the 9 and the 6 are laying right on it, it doesn't make a triangle. So that question mark, in order for this to work, needs to be less than 15. And I got that just by doing 9 plus 6. So final answer is basically those two things together. In order to make a triangle, if two of the sides are 6 and 9, the third side has to be somewhere between 3 and 15. If it's less than 3, it won't reach. If it's greater than 15, it won't reach. So that's a way I can put a little twist on that question. So it's not just a simple yes or no, it's a, hey, here are two sides. Tell me what the third side could be. So again, imagine you have like little sticks or something and you're trying to make triangles. You go, okay, I got this 6-inch one, I got this 9-inch one. I want to make a triangle. If the third one is less than 3, it won't work. And if the third one is bigger than 15 inches, it won't work. It's got to be between 3 and 15 to make that triangle. And that's basically the triangle inequality theorem. It's talking about, think of it as like a hinge. Do these two sides meet? Do they form a triangle? Or are they too short and they never reach?